You're listening to Grace 95.5 FM, the home to entertainment and good talk. And this is Issues with Catherine. It's quite troubling that we have a system of abandoning projects. It's not just troubling, it's financially draining to start something and not finish it. When we look around from one administration to another administration, it is obvious that one administration starts something, they start a project, and then there is a transition from one administration to another, but that project just is left uncompleted, and that is like a menace.
We know most times it has something to do about politics and priority of the incoming government. And don't forget that every government wants to have what they call a legacy project. They want to be noted with a particular project. They say, okay, I started and completed this one. Most of them forgot the fact that government is a continuum that we need to deliver to the people. We need to continuously engage and deliver to the people. So I think there are some of the reasons.
Okay, thank you.
As disturbing as it is, we need to ask ourselves, what is the cause? Why all of a sudden a project that looks good on paper, looks good as going to solve a problem, is the tried problem wants to solve, and then next government that comes or next people that come in, even within the same political party, and you see that those people don't see that project as a priority. I think for me it has to do with the process in which we initiate programs for our people, whether political party or whether it is intervention by private sector. On paper, it should be a bottom-top approach where the people tell you what they want.
Need assessment.
You now implement what they want. So on paper, that's what we should have in the participatory and representative democracy. But what we have is a top-bottom approach, where it is the leaders who decide what you want, and then they push it down your throat. And to make it look as if it is you that said it, they actually do they have an environmental impact assessment they are going to do. They will do that. They even do a social impact assessment on what the project how it's going to affect you. But in the first place, it wasn't you that said that it was a project you want. And that is the main reason why when you see government come, government go, the people don't have much say about the project itself. If they did have say, they will hold the next government accountable to ask them, this project that is beneficial to us, what will you do with it? Will you continue with it? Based on that, we'll know whether we're going to vote you in or not. And so you see, a lot of times politicians just throw up projects because they feel it's a good thing to do and they want to use it to showcase their government. And so the people are always at the peripheral, at the outside the ring, looking into the project, and they say it's government project, not our project, despite the fact that it's very important to them. So I think we need to begin to change the way we see and implement projects for communities. Why build a permanent flood rehabilitation or whatever, flood housing estate that can only be used during flood, which is on paper that's what it's supposed to be? Doesn't make sense. So it means you are so rich that you are able to put up a structure that you only use whenever there is a flood. So if we say flooding occurs yearly, which means we use it for about 34 months, then the people go away. Then we wait for the next flood, and those buildings will remain abandoned, unoccupied. It shows that we didn't think about it clearly. It was more of a knee-jerk reaction. And if you notice, when you said these projects have our monies tied down, some of these projects were actually borrowed to do it. We're still drawing down on those borrowings that we did, and we're still paying back those loans. And these projects have not been finished. As a state, was that the priority that we needed to do? Remember, if you're going to borrow money as an individual, you need to show that this money will be paid back at a particular time, and that this is going to be the income you're going to get. Look at the bypass you talked about. That bypass, at the time it was conceived, who conceived it? Was it the people or the government? If it was the government, which means the next government that came in naturally will drop it and say it doesn't make sense to us. So you can see that the way we are conceiving project is making us lose money. And when a human being loses this kind of money, it shows clearly that you have too much money to lose. And if you have too much money to lose, then you keep doing abandoned project. If it was your personal funds you were running the way Kogi State has been run, do you think you'll still be in business? Because we start projects, use public funds, and initiate a project. The project has not been completed. Talk less of whether it has been put into use. Talk less of whether it is giving value for money. And halfway into it, you drop that particular project. You jump to another one because you have enough money. It shows clearly that we are not poor. We keep saying we are poor. We're not poor. Our leaders keep telling the outside world that we are rich. We're so rich that we have the space to start an abandoned project recklessly. And nobody holds anybody accountable. When the issue of sales of Kogi assets came up, 2021, there was this outcry that what was the citizens' input into that issue? Because it's our commonwealth, it's a public asset that our funds, our collective funds, were used to procure. So if you want to sell it as a government, you need to call the people together to say, this is the reason why we want to put this up for sale. Either because we don't have money to continue to do it, or because it is no longer needed and we need to, or that the cost has become too much that we cannot continue to build, to construct it. And the people must give you the go-ahead because it's their money. Now the question is, where was that interaction done to say that this is what we want to sell and that this is the reason we want to sell it and let people make their contribution to it? We didn't have that kind of consultation.
I would like to react to what somebody said, the last caller said, Ali Baba, when you talked about the bypass, the Wada road. Now, you can see what's playing out there. When you started a project that is less than 10% completed, and it is already named after that particular administration, the head of that particular administration, definitely the next administration will find it, will develop a cold feet to complete that, even though that is going to be a lot of good to the people, because all of them, they said legacy project. That's the problem, which is a mindset issue. We hope that with time we go beyond that level. Then the second one is that of the oversight function issue. Now we have the executive, the legislatures, and the judiciary. We had thought, and that is what we're taught at school, that there's going to be a check and balance. That's why we have the people's house, which is the legislators, the state assembly. We need to engage these people, get a job. The incoming government need to also sit tight, because it's not going to be an easy ride. It's going to be a bumpy ride. We need to get the job done. Those abandoned projects are projects for Kogi State, and they need to put our money where our mouths are so that we get the job done.